What Caitlin Clark did, because so many eyeballs were on her, was she is a huge multiplier effect of that.
I see a lot of players wanting to go, in this offseason, a lot of players are going to want to go to the
Fever just revealed some shocking news. They're assembling the next WNBA super squad with a huge free agency signing and an unexpected blockbuster deal.
Obviously, we've gotten right to work on the basketball side of things, preparing for 2025 as well. So it's been a fun...
Or are we considering actions that might cause the league to change for years to come? Consider Caitlin Clark Elia. What does it imply for Boston's hopes of winning a championship now that a new player is joining them on the court?
Think of who potentially could be in their plans. Like, obviously Satu Sabali is a potential player who you can get via some sort of...
Okay, let's get started because the Indiana Fever have recently upended the WNBA. If you're a basketball fan, you are aware of how infrequent it is for an offseason to create this much excitement, but the Fever have pulled off not one, but two game-changing moves, and believe me when I say that this isn't just about filling roster spots. It's about building a team that can endure and become a force in the league.
The number one priority for us is re-signing Kelsey Mitchell. I think that backcourt was about as lethal as we've seen in the WNBA, and I'm talking maybe in history.
Here's what we currently know. The Fever revealed a massive free agency deal that has everyone talking. For weeks, they have been hinting at big moves, and now the news is out. The Fever are adding a player that can enhance their already outstanding core of Boston's Caitlin Clark, Alia Lexi Hall, and Kelsey Mitchell. This team has had good camaraderie, but this newcomer is a game changer. Someone who can improve the performance of the entire group and who perfectly complements the Fever's style of play.
Next step. So I think as we're looking to free agency, we'll think about veterans coming in with that playoff experience. But, you know, what a foundation in Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, back-to-back rookies of the year, players playing together that can really do something special for the long term. And obviously, as we get into free agency, the number one priority for us.
However, that's not all. Along with this free agent addition, the Fever made a huge transaction that has fans talking. WNBA trades don't usually make headlines, but this one is unique. For far too long, Indiana has been viewed as an underdog. They've been rebuilding and making moves here and there, but now they are putting their all into it. This isn't just about adding talent. It's about making a statement. The Fever are telling the league that we are here to win, not to play.
In Phoenix, you have a lot of experience in professional sports, women's professional sports. How does that impact you here as you get ready for this?
What's really intriguing is how calculated these moves are. The Fever didn't just target well-known players for the sake of doing so. Instead, they chose players who fit their system and their long-term goals. This isn't just about talent. It's also about compatibility and creating a cohesive team. And let's not overlook the coaching staff, who have been outspoken about wanting players who can run the floor, adjust to various situations, and bring versatility to the game. Based on what we're hearing, these new additions check all those boxes.
The players that fit with the system Stephanie wants to have on the floor. Offensively, we were pretty efficient last year. We need to improve on the defensive end, which I'm sure Steph agrees with. So we'll continue to look at those, 3-and-D type players that can get out and run, but can also get back and help us on the defensive end, really improve on that side of the ball too. But fit is the most important thing. You got to have somebody that can run up and down the floor and catch those passes Caitlin's going to be throwing.
Speaking of the defensive end, improvements to be made, but you've got a centerpiece in the middle there in Aaliyah Boston. And
in today's WNBA, where the game is faster and more dynamic than ever, the free agent signing is a forward with incredible versatility who can defend multiple positions, stretch the floor with their shooting, and crash the boards for rebounds. The trade also brought in a guard who is not only quick and agile, but also has the kind of court vision that can turn a good offense into a great one. This player knows how to create opportunities. It's never easy to say goodbye to players who have contributed so much to the team, but sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the greater good. From what we're hearing, the Fever's management was very thoughtful about these decisions. They didn't just look at stats, they also considered team dynamics' future potential and how these changes would impact the locker room. Of course, these moves weren't without sacrifices. To make all of this happen, the team had to part ways with some fan favorites. On paper, they have the talent, but as we all know, talent alone does not win championships, so fans are already speculating about what this means for the upcoming season. Are the Fever now legitimate title contenders? Can they finally make an impression and establish themselves as one of the league's elite teams? Even while it seems like the Fever is headed in the right direction, it's really about chemistry, execution, and stepping up when it counts most. What does this mean for the rest of the league? Well, for starters, it raises the bar for teams that thought they were safe at the top and now have to worry about Indiana creeping up behind them, and for the teams that are still rebuilding, it serves as a reminder that staying stagnant isn't an option. The buzz surrounding these moves isn't just limited to Indiana. Players, coaches, and analysts are taking notice. Teams are preparing for one version of the Fever and are now frantically adjusting their strategies, and analysts are reconsidering their preseason projections. If you don't get better, you're lagging behind. The Fever's actions are a warning to everyone else. It's important to remember that the WNBA is more competitive than ever. We're still awaiting some finer details, such as the precise terms of the contracts and how these new players will fit into the team system, but even without them, it's obvious that the Fever are making a statement. They're not just trying to improve on last year, they're trying to be the best. If you're a fan of the Fever, you must be buzzing about what's coming up next. Let's continue where we left off, with the Indiana Fever's summer actions not only creating headlines, but also changing for a franchise that has been in rebuild mode for years. The team's daring actions are indicating a change in priorities. Let's take a closer look at what's actually happening behind the scenes now that the Fever has finished waiting for their moment and is creating it. The new general manager of Fever since taking on the position, Amber Cox, has been a revelation, demonstrating that mediocrity is not an option. She has shown ambition in every interview and public comment she has given. Cox wants the team to dominate, not just be competitive, and that's exactly what this team needs. So, how does this translate into the moves they've made? First, let's talk about the free agent signing. Although the player's name hasn't been officially confirmed, all indications point to Seta Sabali, a game-changer who is 6 feet 4 inches in, and a forward with guard-like skills who can shoot, pass, and defend at an elite level. Because of her versatility, opponents find her to be a nightmare matchup, pairing her with Caitlin Clark and Elia. Boston would be a brilliant idea. Consider what this trio could accomplish together. The playmaking of Clark Solly's ability to stretch the floor and Boston's supremacy in the post open up many possibilities. Because each player has the ability to beat you in a variety of ways, defenses won't be able to concentrate on just one. Firepower that can keep opposing coaches up at night, but Solly's influence extends beyond her on-court prowess. She is a demonstrated leader who can motivate her teammates and set the tone in the locker room for a young team like the Fever. Having a player with her level of experience could be invaluable. While the specifics of the Blockbuster transaction have not yet been made public, we know that it entailed trading some future draft assets to acquire a talented guard. Poise and a winning mentality are two traits that can help this club advance. Aerial Powers is the name that keeps coming up, and if it's accurate, it's another huge win for Indiana Powers, who is a player that excels under pressure and is swift. She is resourceful and adept at bringing about change. Her inclusion on this roster adds another weapon to the Fever's arsenal. What's really exciting about Powers is that she can complement Caitlin Clark. Both players have amazing basketball IQs, and their games seem to be a perfect fit. Powers' ability to create her own shot relieves some of the pressure on Clark, and Clark's vision and passing could unleash Powers' full potential. It's a win-win situation that could make the Fever one of the league's most dynamic offensive teams. Of course, these moves weren't made without sacrifice. Releasing veterans Tammy Bentley's departure was difficult, particularly considering her contributions from the previous season. Her leadership will be missed, but sometimes you have to sacrifice something good in order to accomplish something great, and it appears that the Fever are doing just that. Fans' reactions to Bentley's departure have been mixed. On the one hand, there is disappointment at losing a player who is so adored by the fan base, and on the other hand, there's excitement about what these new additions could mean for the team's future. It's a bittersweet moment, but most fans seem to agree that the Fever are headed in the right direction. Let's now discuss what all of this means for the WNBA as a whole. The Fever's actions are a wake-up call for the other league teams that were content to maintain the status quo and are now realizing that they will need to step up their game. And for fans, this is exactly what they want to see. There will be more thrilling games in a league with greater competition. One of the most intriguing things about this offseason is how it's laying the groundwork for a possible change in power dynamics. For years, a small number of powerhouse teams have controlled the league, but the Fever are positioning themselves to challenge that. If these moves are successful, we may be witnessing the beginning of a new era in the WNBA, one in which Indiana is a consistent contender. Even more exciting is how this could affect the team's fan base. The team has always had devoted fans, but let's face it, winning changes everything. Success on the court generates more ticket sales, merchandise, and national attention, and with players like Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and possibly Satu Sabali leading the way, the Fever have a chance to become one of the league's most marketable teams. Of course, there are still questions that need to be answered, like how these new players will fit into the team system, what changes the coaching staff will need to make, and perhaps most importantly, can this roster live up to its potential? However, one thing is certain, the Fever aren't backing down. The challenge, all right, let's get it home. The Indians and Fever's offseason decisions have set the stage for what could be a transformative season. These choices aren't just about making the playoffs, they're about making a statement. Amber Cox and the Fever front office are taking chances, and those chances could very well pay off in the form of a deep playoff run, or even a championship. Now, the emphasis is on execution. The pieces are in place, but as we all know, chemistry, coaching, and the capacity to adjust are what win games. Boston. The coaching staff of the Fever has their hands full, but they also have a roster that may play some of the most thrilling basketball in the WNBA if Kelsey Mitchell and their new colleagues perform well on the floor. The inclusion of athletes such as Satu Sabali and potentially Ariel imagine a quick-paced attack centered on Clark's playmaking with the Fever's more adaptable and dynamic lineup thanks to Powers. Boston is a team that can score from almost anywhere thanks to their dominance in the paint and Solly's ability to stretch the floor. However, defense wins championships, and the Fever have demonstrated a dedication to improving on that end of the court, so Boston's ability to defend the rim and Solly's length and versatility will be crucial. If this squad can keep up their offense while locking down opponents, anyone in the league will have a nightmarish matchup with firepower. League remembering the ripple consequences of these actions is important. The league's other teams are keeping a close eye on this new appearance and will need to modify their tactics accordingly. Squad Fever, the WNBA, is more competitive than ever, and fans' expectations are only going to rise as a result of the Fever's audacious actions. It's a thrilling time to be a Fever fan, and the future has never looked brighter. However, what comes next? Training camp will be the first real test for this team. It's where the foundation for the season will be built, and the coaching staff will start to shape their game plan. After years of rebuilding, the Fever are finally giving their supporters something to cheer about. Season ticket sales are likely to skyrocket, and the buzz around this team will only grow as the season approaches. It's your turn now. What do you think of the Fever's off-season moves? Are they headed for a championship, or is there still work to be done? The regular season will present its own set of difficulties, but with the talent and leadership on this roster, the Fever have every reason to be optimistic in the end. The Fever's off-season moves aren't just about building a team, they're about building a legacy. This is a franchise that is ready to compete at the highest level, and they're not looking back. Leave a comment below with your opinions, and remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications so you don't miss any updates. We appreciate your time and hope to see you again soon.